Καλημέρα σας. Ευχαριστώ. Μερικοί από εσάς με είδατε χθες στο workshop, so έχω κάνει κάποιες αλλαγές. Να έχετε λίγο φρέσκο material σήμερα. Θα αλλάζω μεταξύ τα εγγλέζικα και τα ελληνικά, λόγω έχουμε και guest speakers εδώ, αλλά ελπίζω να με καταλάβετε μεταξύ των δύο. So, from pains to gains, όπως είπε και ο Δημήτρης, θα προσπαθήσω να σας δώσω λίγη φόρμα σε αυτά που έχετε ακούσει σήμερα. Ευτυχώς ο Λεκ, ο Πέτρος, η Μπίλη ήδη μιλήσανε πιο deeply σε κάποια θέματα. Εγώ θα σας δώσω λίγο το structure και μια λίγο πιο καλύτερη θεωρία, πώς να τα ενώσετε όλα μαζί, να τα κάνετε. Λίγα λόγια για μένα. Εγώ άρχισα σαν φωτογράφος εδώ και περίπου 20 χρόνια. Από τότε έχω δουλέψει, όπως είπε και ο Δημήτρης, με luxury brands, fashion brands και στο FMCG τα τελευταία 10 χρόνια. Κάποιες μάρκες που έχω δουλέψει, αλλά μπορείτε εσείς να καθόσετε εδώ να με ρωτάτε γιατί τι έχει φωτογραφίες να κάνουν με customer service, right? Η customer experience. Well, αυτό θα το πω στα εγγλέζικα. Customers are like photographs. And by that I mean to say, you usually only get one shot. Just as an example, 25 years ago, do you remember when CD Walkmans came out, right? The little portable CD players? It was usually Sony that was the one and only brand that did them. I went through 3 Sonys in 2 years. They always expired the day after the 60-day warranty. After that, I never touched Sony again, right? They can come out with the best TVs, they can come out with the best refrigerators, they can come out with whatever they like. I will never ever touch Sony again. And I gave them more than one chance. Now, and that was because there wasn't even any other choice 20 years ago. Now, as many of my other fellow speakers have said, within a day, there's a new startup that can do what you used to do, there's a new product that you can switch it with, so you don't have to go through the pain of staying with any brand that doesn't deliver on some of the basic things. Πολλές εταιρείες νομίζουν ότι κάνουν καλό customer service. Άμα ρωτήσεις τους πελάτες, not so much, right? 10% από ό,τι νομίζουν οι εταιρείες. Όπως σας είπα, θα σας δώσω λίγη φόρμα στην ημέρα σήμερα. I'm going to share with you the secret formula for customer care. I'll then take you very quickly to how you can identify your shopper journeys and pain points, and actually link some of the technology you've heard and some of the customer service principles that you've heard. So what's the formula? Customer care plus customer service leads to a positive customer experience. Now, what is the difference between all these customer services, cares, experiences? Actually, as Billy ended her presentation, a lot of purchases, almost 2/3 of them or more, are driven by the feeling you have with the brand, the feeling you have with interaction, the feeling you expect to get from the product. That means that as a brand, or as a product, as a service provider, as a store or retailer, you need to be investing in that consumer interaction up front. It's not about letting it get to the stage where something wrong has happened and you're trying to deal with it later. Every interaction from the very beginning counts. And as we see here, even if a customer is coming and they don't end up buying something, you still need to make that investment because they will probably come back if you made them feel that you deserve their business. Who does great customer care? Peter is a very, very big fan of Apple. They have their Genius Bar, they have their upfront customer service. You can go on their website, you can talk to people, whether it's by phone, through web chat. You can find out about the products. They obviously do their own advertising to inform people about what they can do. They have their outreach programs. You also have, for example, a department store called Nordstrom in the US. You might have heard of it. It was one of the politically charged ones. They dropped Ivanka Trump's jewelry chain after the whole Trump-Mexico fiasco. But rather than just being your normal department store, your normal Attica, your normal John Lewis, you can walk in, you can sit down, and you can talk to someone for 3 hours and say, I'd like a new kitchen, or I'd like a new hat. And they will sit there and they will invest the time with you up front. So it's not a matter of dealing with returns, dealing with problems. It's a matter of investing in that connection, in that relationship. You've heard a lot of bad airline examples so far. I'm going to give you probably the one in the industry which is good so far. Vediamo, Borita.
It is more stressful flying with a baby. There's just a lot more to consider. There's a lot more to think about. Do I have everything ready? Am I forgetting anything? Is he going to be occupied on the airplane? I don't want to be that lady with the baby who's screaming for 4 hours.
Flight 213 is now boarding. Please proceed to gate 15.
I'm nervous because he doesn't like to sit still. I think the worst thing that could happen on this flight is that he'll get overtired, which causes a lot of screaming. And people definitely give you some dirty looks.
Can you sit down for me, please? I'm most nervous about her having a total meltdown and having everyone around us really wishing that we weren't on the plane.
For your safety, continue observing the seatbelt sign and remember that all flights
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard our very special JetBlue flight. We all know when we're flying with babies and they cry on the plane, it can be hard on all of us. This will be the very first flight where crying babies is a good thing. Every time a baby on this plane cries, you'll receive 25% off your next JetBlue flight. In other words, 4 cries is equivalent to a free round-trip ticket.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain speaking. We're going to be commencing our descent in the next few minutes. The latest weather in Long Beach right now, reporting winds out of the west of about 10 to 15 miles.
Max did it. Let's give it up for Max, Donovan, Leela, Beck, and Reese.
Thanks again to all the moms and the babies on board today for making this flight so special.
Obviously, there's a PR campaign behind this. It was for Mother's Day, very funny, very actionable. But the fact that a company went above and beyond to invest its time and single out a very large demographic of its consumers, and by doing so actually touching the hearts and minds of all of its consumers, shows that upfront willingness, that empathy that Billy and Peter have been talking about to go above and beyond and make that connection. So that if the next time there's a flight and there's a delay and there's something, these consumers on this plane and anyone who might have seen this film would say, you know what, I'll give JetBlue that second chance. I'll give them that wiggle room because they're obviously there to help me out. Right? How can we measure customer care? It's very elusive because you're trying to measure emotion. You're trying to measure this empathy. There's no very clear research methodology to do it or questionnaire that you could create. I mean, not something that's really actionable. But there are a few best practices that you could take away today and immediately put in your organization. One is obviously consumer knowledge. You need to know who these people are, who's buying you, who's browsing you, who's talking about you. You also need to define what it is you want your customer experience to be. And I'll touch upon that in a few minutes. You need to create that narrative that Peter is talking about, that brand story. What do you stand for? What do you want people to know and stand with you? And you need to align everyone in the business to this. So customer care, customer service is not just about the customer service department, the social media department. It's everybody's job, whether they work in logistics or whether they look in packaging design. And lastly, as part of this, as part of the cultural element that you've already heard from several people today, everyone needs to embrace it. It's across silos. So what is customer service then? Well, customer service is the after effect. Something's gone wrong, something probably has happened, maybe there's a few extra questions. You need to have that front line ready to commit to the consumer, ready to answer to the consumer. Apple, as you've already heard, does it very well, but Amazon. right? Amazon is nearly, about 2 years ago, I would have said they have zero physical presence. Now, as you know, they have quite a few physical stores as well, but there's still, let's say, a 98%, 99% online-only presence. And yet, no matter what happens, where you go, no matter which Amazon website you are in the world, you have a delivery issue, you have a pricing issue, something came damaged, something didn't come at all. Within 24 hours, you can get a refund, you can get credit, you can get a referral. The incidents get solved very, very, very quickly. Again, to what Billy's saying, a very timely response time from Amazon. How do we measure it? Very typically, your CSATs, your customer service assessments. But here's the tricky bit. You've probably received some type of customer service survey. You'll receive one after this conference. How did it go? Did you like it? Did you like all of us? Were we well dressed enough for you? But are those the right questions to be asking? And are they the right questions at the right time? You'll rent a car. At the end, you go to the Hertz desk. They say, did you like the car experience? Did it work for you? Did you get to where you needed to go? Yeah. But I sort of got there. So when I rented a car in Morocco, yes, I got to where I needed to go, and I returned the car to where it needed to be returned, but the car had no brakes by the end of it. Like, you would hear the grinding metal, and I was surprised that we actually got back to Marrakesh in one piece. But the customer service survey said, yep, very pleased customer. He got to where he needed to go. The other thing is, are you actually listening to what people are telling you? Or are you vetting the responses? Are you cutting them short or ignoring what you don't want to listen to? Because that's where the actual insights come from. That's where your chances to improve come from. Nearly 75% of customers who leave your brand, your product, your service, do so because of a bad episode, a bad customer experience. So what is that customer experience? Well, if we backtrack 1 second to the customer service element, customer service is about reaction, right? Consumer comes to you, they have a problem, they have a delay, something was broken, etc. They need a change, you're reacting to it. You have to wait for them to come to you. Customer experience is the proactive element to this. It's that customer care element. You are going out, you are planning ahead, you are creating these moments, these elements, these experiences. You might be able to control them yourself. You might have to do them through partners, through B2B networks, whoever they are, wherever they are. But you are the one driving this, and you are creating this ecosystem for the consumer to find and buy into. Vediamo Borite, one more example from JetBlue.
Our nation is facing a problem. It affects every single one of us. Every man, child, woman, child. People don't have time to do anything. They go from here to there to there to here. Some people have 2 cell phones. Kids have karate practice. Everyone is so busy. Why? Are we losing our humanity? Is humankind becoming humankinda? Well, that's good. Write that down, actually. I wanted to find some answers. And I think I might have. Hi, I'm Sam Richardson. Actor, comedian, collector of clocks. I went from LA to New York to DC to Florida to Miami, which is in Florida. Then I took a personal trip to Seattle. It was nice. I've talked to swamis and ducks, even an elephant. By the end of this documentary, I hope to answer the question, why are we so busy? Or as my elephant friend said, follow me into this adventure. First, I hit the streets to investigate this busyness problem up close. That's perfect.
Excuse me, ma'am, are you busy?
I can't.
You can't because she's so busy. Man, would you say that you're busy?
I'm on the phone.
Oh,
I'm busy, yeah.
are you into a client right now?
Yes. In the 4th grade, there's a lot of work to do.
What does your job include on the day-to-day?
Just slicing bread for 8 bucks.
I'm so lucky that I'm on the news right now.
Well, this isn't, I'm gonna be fair, this isn't the news.
Oh, man.
People were too busy to talk to me, so I decided to sweeten the deal.
So if you could go to Puerto Rico right now, would you go?
What's the catch?
The catch is you have to go right now, that's the catch.
6 months ago, it would have been probably different.
It kind of seems crazy to drop everything and run.
Puerto Rico, free trip. Doesn't that sound like a relief, just to get to drop everything and leave?
Just like drop it and go?
Yeah, why not? Life is too short. Life is too short, that's very true.
I can, but I would.
So are you not really that busy?
Just say yes.
Yes.
After a day's work, I had only saved one person from his busyness, and it was really hard to convince him it was okay.
Have fun trip.
I realized that my scope was too broad. I wanted to speak to an expert about this.
Again, very PRable, very marketable, lovely content, shares, 50 million likes. Anytime you find this online, you'll be entering this lovely mental space. But again, it just goes to show JetBlue going outside of its mandate, right? It's an airline company, right? It just needs to fly from New York to Canada, that's all. But going out and creating an ecosystem for people to understand and to buy into, right? So who's good at customer experience? Well, at a global level, it's no brands that you wouldn't probably expect to be there. Apple and Amazon always fight each other for the #1 spot. But what's interesting is the brands that consumers think offer very good customer experience are also, that line there, FedEx, Amazon, Disney, Marlboro, Pampers, they're also the same companies that are linked to innovation. They're linked to the biggest financial contribution to that mega company's portfolio. They're the most loved. They're the strongest brands, the most loyal brands, those sticky brands. And that all comes from that experience piece, even though it's buried at the end of that chart. That drives everything else. How do we measure customer experience? Most of you probably know the NPS, the Net Promoter Score. You need to be quite harsh with yourselves. We always do customer feedback surveys and we say, oh, I got a 5 out of 10, a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, great. Yeah, you're not really moving the needle if you're not 9 or 10 out of 10, because those are the people that are your ultra brand loyalists. They're the ones that, as Peter was saying, they're your marketing department outside of your own marketing department. They're talking to everyone else about you for free, right? They actually paid you to talk about you to everyone else. So how can we optimize the formula? Well, we obviously want to increase the amount of time we spend on the customer care end. We want to decrease the amount of time we spend on the customer service end, but not below a minimum threshold, right? We still need to have that minimum baseline. And if we do these two things, and we focus on the experience, it'll be an exponential level of return, right? This isn't arithmetic, it's exponential. So shall we go shopping? No. All right, I'll do it on my own. It's a very painful experience anyway. Over 50% of all customer interactions happen during a multi-event, multi-channel journey. In other words, I don't just go to the store and buy something. I view, I browse, I look online, I talk to someone else. I'm exposed multiple times. What does that mean for you? Where is this, guys? Delphi. The people who were in my workshop yesterday don't say anything. Does anyone know what's written on one of the rocks around the temple? Γνώθεις αυτόν, or know thyself, all right? As a brand, you need to, or as a product, a company, you need to know what you stand for. You need to know who you are. You need to know what that translates to across all these multifaceted, multi-channel areas. Fiat, very much a rational, functional car brand. For me, it's always the Fiat Panda. It's not even Fiat, it's that model. Very functional, square, good for moving stuff around, good for, small trips. They're trying to move that way, okay. On the other hand, you have a brand like Maserati, still part of the Fiat group, right? Same family, just two different expressions of it. It's been modernized, but it's the same consistent brand for the last 50 years. We're going on 50 years. You need to know who you are, what you do, and how that translates to the consumer. So are you an innovator or a follower? Are you Apple or Nokia? And there's nothing wrong with being Nokia in this case. If you're Nokia, play to your strengths. If you're Apple, play to yours. Are you a price leader or a value leader? Are you Chanel or are you H&M? Again, two very good brands, very respectable brands. Consumers can access both brands, but play in the way that's relevant to that DNA that you've built. Experiential, no frills, or serious business, funny business, serious business, think of Levi jeans, right? Ultra durable. Their messaging for the last 100 years, the first jeans ever made for gold mine workers in California. Nothing gets through. And then you had Diesel, a disruptor brand, or now an eruptor brand, saying, do what stupid is, be stupid, have fun, take risks. You can in these jeans. Completely different message. Are the jeans made the same way? Yes. Do they probably last the same amount of time? Probably. But two different strength areas that they're tapping into. But now that you know who you are, you need to know how your consumer will access you, right? What's that journey? I shared this yesterday. I got a few laughs. It is incorrect. This was normally how marketers or shopper teams used to think about how consumers shop. It was gender-based, it was age-based, it was ethnicity-based, culture-based. What this really shows, right, if I really get rid of those titles, is that there are types of purchases which are rushed, which are repeat, which the consumer doesn't have a lot of investment in, doesn't want a lot of investment in. And there are other shopper journeys which the consumer wants to spend time, they want to browse. So me buying my first car will probably be on that side. Me buying an upgrade, I don't need to spend that much time anymore, right? Not to mention that there's all the other touch points. It's not just the in-store experience. What happens when I go online? What happens when I talk to someone? What happens when I'm on my mobile phone? The journey looks different to different people, and I'll go through these quite quickly, but we have these three examples, right? Normal, let's say, shopping trips. My basic everyday one, I just need milk, I just need bread, I just need eggs. Maybe something a bit more upscale, I need a new suit. Or maybe I'm going on holiday, I need to rent a car. From the production side, from the producers of these products, I'm thinking I've made a great product, consumers will love it. From the retailer side, this product gives me 5% margin, 10% margin, 15% margin. From the consumer side, don't really care, I just need something. Yeah, I need to look good, but I'm not going to overpay for it. Yeah, I need something to get me from A to Z as long as the wheels don't come off, right? As a producer, as a retailer, as a B2B, you need to think like the consumer, not what you're trying to do only, but what do they need from that product. And you also need to understand what are the pain points associated as that consumer gets to your product, as they access your service. Again, buying milk. I shared this yesterday. 15 years ago, supermarkets used to bury the milk at the end of the supermarket. They knew it was a basic purchase. Consumers had to enter the supermarket every day to buy it. So they said, we're going to make it as difficult as possible for them, make sure they pass through every single aisle first so that they buy other stuff as well. Yeah, consumers got fed up and they went to the convenience store where the milk was literally in the front fridge, and they abandoned the supermarkets. Again, clothing. Maybe speaking to more the women in the room, I think us guys were simpler, just pick whatever's off the rack. But you might look at what a brand that you like. They all say size 15, size 36, size whatever. Same brand. Sorry. They fit differently, right? The same brand, same size, different cut. Okay, are you going to spend 5 hours in the changing room wearing every single one of these? No, of course you're not. You'll abandon it and go to a brand which is either easier or you abandon the shopping trip entirely. Again, renting the car. You land at the airport. Where the hell is the desk? Are they going to give me the car that I ordered? Are they going to give me something else? Are they going to charge me 5 times the amount of the fee in insurance than what I paid for the car? What is this? Peter mentioned it, also one of my favorite examples. Avis built a brand around that idea, that pain point, that at Hertz, you're a number. They're so big and have so many access points and so many cars that you spend 5 hours just waiting to get your rent-a-car. Go to Avis in 3 minutes flat, you get your car, you go. What makes the magic possible is a custom-built combination of computer vision, sensor fusion, deep learning, which come together to create the just walk-out shopping experience. That was Jeff Bezos describing one of the new Amazon grab-and-go pop-up stores in Seattle and a few others that have opened up since. That store, that physical manifestation of the Amazon brand, is a result of them analyzing neighborhoods, analyzing what people do, how they do it, why they do it, what prices they're willing to pay, what reviews of products that they've given, and in that specific neighborhood, creating a unique ecosystem for the people in that neighborhood. And that's why anyone can go in, find whatever they need very, very quickly, and walk out without even spending a minute putting their hand in their pocket. Right? That analysis, that consumer understanding. Uh-oh. All right, I'm done. No, okay. That consumer understanding is what's driving the success of these new outlet stores for Amazon. All right, so let's get to the solutions. Okay. So, yeah, it works. Customer care, customer service, both can be achieved, but the question now is how. You've heard some digital elements, you've heard about some principles that your store staff or your call center staff should have, but what do you use, when, and why? Staff will still be, at least in my estimation, one of the very first lines of action and reaction for the consumer. We might move towards digitization, we might move towards modernization, but there will still have to be a human being somewhere talking to someone. And I'll show you what happens when that doesn't happen. So you remember these examples? Buried in these pain points was the fact that across all these purchases, the consumer found a customer agent or a brand agent that didn't know what they were talking about. And that's a massive pain point. So what we need to do as brands, as services, is make sure that our company, our staff, our sales reps are fully engaged with the products, fully aware of the products, and know how to sell them. Or not sell them, depending on the person. You can't sell everything to everyone, and sometimes you shouldn't. They need to be engaging. They need to be inquiring. You're not just there as a talking box. You're not here like the robots. I ask you a question, you answer back. You have a brain. You have the ability to ask the consumer what it is that they're looking for and why. And if what I'm answering you isn't answering your question, what can I do to answer it better? What do you need me to know to answer you? Don't be afraid to ask questions back. They also need to be empowered. So sort of in the Spotify example that Billy mentioned and a few others, those customer service agents or let's say customer care agents, they need to have the leeway to be able to look at a consumer and say, listen, this person's really pissed off. I need to be able to give them a 10% discount on something, or I need to be able to invite them for a special coffee with the manager at Starbucks. I need to have that leeway. I need to have, whether it's budget, options, I need it. That's the only way to connect empathetically with this consumer. And of course, this is relevant across all types of channels. Now, some of you might sit here and say, well, I produce something, but I'm not that point of sale, right? I don't have my own Apple store to sell my own Apple products, right? They're being sold through Carrefour, through Attica, through Booking.com. As Pete mentioned, there is no B2B. There's P2P, there's person to person. Duty Free as a channel has spent literally hundreds of millions of euros, dollars, yen, whatever. The brands have spent this training the store staff of the duty-free stores. They're saying, if I want to sell my whiskey, I want to sell my tobacco, I want to sell my fragrance, and I can't put my own person in the store to do it, I will train those people to do it. And then whoever has the best training program means that that sales rep of the duty-free store will sell their fragrance, their cosmetic, their whiskey, above all the other ones, because their training program was better, more empathetic, more consumer-centric, more engaging. The story is stuck, right? So if you don't have a consumer-facing point of sale, enable your partners to do it for you. And sometimes, maybe you should take your stuff into your own hands. Maybe if you're Chanel and Attica isn't doing a good job, yeah, you open up your own Chanel pop-up somewhere else. On the street, you buy one of these shipping containers and you put it in there, and you have your own staff doing it. So very quickly, luckily Billy went very well into this section, all the social media side. There are options available to you, and depending on the industry, depending on the area, you will find consumers in different places. In China, they're lucky. They've got WeChat, that little green program. WeChat is basically Google, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, what else? Twitter. It's all in one. Amazon. It's all in this one app. You can do anything through WeChat. Okay, in the West, we need 3 or 4 apps to do the same thing. But find out where your customers are talking about your industry, your products, and go there and be there for them. You have CRM programs, a tool that's not very much leveraged properly or enough. We collect data, or at least we try to collect data from consumers, and then we don't do anything with it. And it's not, again, as that Twitter example, it's not about having an email address of someone and bombarding them 5 times in a week with a promotion. It's actually about personalization. It's actually about investigation. Ask those questions. Find out what it is. If you've sent them 3 emails and they haven't responded, find out why. Ask them what it is that's missing from your offer, or from your service, or from your identity. QR codes and other tech hardware. So QR, you guys might have remembered, came out about 8-9 years ago. Every year, it's either at the top of the digital chain or at the bottom of the digital chain. It fluctuates depending on who the next guru is. Again, an underutilized tool, something that costs zero to produce. You can go online right now and make one for yourself, for anything, any website or any microsite. You can install it literally by printing it on a piece of paper and putting it at your point of sale. A consumer can scan it. They can understand, okay, this is what the brand is trying to tell me. These are the sizes that are available to me. If I'm trying to buy a special bottle of milk, it can tell me if the product is out of stock or in of stock. Very easy to manage, and it can be linked to your systems in real time. Now, from the hardware point of view, especially for some of you B2B companies, there used to be RFID, which again, sort of NFC going up and down on the digital chain ladder. But there's a lot of startups which are working in this space. There's one in Australia which has actually sold for less than 1 Australian cent, so that's less than even $1 about a 3 millimeter by 3 millimeter chip, and they've installed 70,000 of them for the cost of $7,000 across Australia's water network. So Australia's water provider can have real-time data updates on what is happening, where's the rain coming, where's the water coming into, and they can redirect it to consumers when and where it's needed. If there's a flash fire and you need every single fire engine in Sydney to access the water, they can redirect the water because they know when and where it's coming from in real time. That's something that can be easily installed across your logistic platforms, across your store platforms. You can actually see what's happening. Now, remember I mentioned before the sort of move to maybe a no human being type of customer service. At first glance here, we've got Tommy Hilfiger, their online store through the Facebook Messenger app, right? So as a consumer, you browse something, you added it to your cart, you asked them, you said, I'm ready to check out. They took you to the store. Okay, fine, my watch is in the shopping bag. Before you launch something like this, or rather before you invest in something like this, use it. What no one at Tommy Hilfiger did was to use their own application. And the first time a consumer did, I should say, they had the worst time of it. Every time they wanted to go back to maybe change the size of the jeans they were buying, or the shirt, or add something to the cart, or delete something from the cart, none of this was possible. They had to close the system down, re-go to the website, relaunch the app, re-add something, and through trial and error, 40 hours later, they finally added something to the cart and bought it. Again, there needs to be some level of interaction. Either the experience is so smooth that no human being is needed, or someone needs to be there to curate it a bit. All right. And we have obviously our freak examples. Let's just say that beta testing is still undergoing. All right. So again, digital solutions. Even for something as mundane as milk. You have manufacturers now putting small pieces of hardware, very thin silicone chips onto them, which can actually connect to consumers' phones when they go home to sell them. Listen, even though we recommended this best usage date, in the refrigerator you have, which is probably 15 years old and not working very well, this milk will expire in the next 2 days. So either drink it up or throw it out. You prevent an issue from happening, right? You don't want an angry person saying, I just drank curdled milk and I've been vomiting for 6 hours in the emergency room. You told them ahead of time they should do something about it. Again, QR codes can be used anywhere, very much now used in the fashion industry for consumers to access information, for them to see visualizations of the products on models, in real-life situations, augmented reality. And of course, from a CRM point of view, going back to our Avis Rent-A-Car, they have enacted these programs where they can track where you're going, what you're doing. They can give you live traffic updates. They can give you live, user-generated recommendations. We see you're on Highway 65. This is the next gas station that you need. You better fill up because we're actually tracking that the car is low. And not just that, the insights that you get, whether it's tech-sourced or human-sourced, they can actually lead to your next wave of innovation and commercialization. So Nike in the US, they were keeping track of all their customer reviews of products in local neighborhoods. And then they launched their new Nike by Melrose line. So these are custom-made shoes, custom-designed shoes for you, based on what they know the people in the area like. You can go to that store and get a custom-made Nike shoe. Amazon, obviously, billions and billions of data points. They opened up local shops, bookstores, video stores, based on what people around these neighborhoods wanted. They even had a section, as you can see here, the New York section, This was in San Francisco, but they said, well, maybe someone would like to know what New Yorkers are doing because they think New Yorkers are better than them. So they'll read what New Yorkers do so they can get better themselves. So where does that leave us? Don't go through all of that. You'll get it at the presentation at the end. But we need that formula, right? We need to balance it. We need to up the customer care, reduce the customer service to that very good but very stable minimum level, and exponentially build our customer experience. We need to know who we are, what we stand for, what we want to do, how we want to do it, how to connect with consumers. And we have to make sure that everyone in the business is aligned to it and breathes it and lives it. We need to understand how our shoppers get to us. How do they get to our doors? How do they get to our websites? What happens after that? What are the pain points? How can we preempt the pain points? How can we solve them before they've even happened? Think about JetBlue, think about Amazon. And of course, we then need to match the appropriate technology or the appropriate human intervention that's needed for each one of them. So, it's not an impossible task, it's actually quite possible. This is me just rushing through this in 40 minutes. And if I was JetBlue in Greek, pam psila.